A game journalist, Hack with Kotaku, recently released an article trashing Final Fantasy XVI, talking about how it's going to be too white, and this person got roasted for it because the creatives behind the project should be able to create what they want, but this writer has decided to double down, calling out Japanese RPGs, saying we need to hold them to higher standards. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So this is the article. Of course, I am using an archive because I'm not going to give them my click. It says we need to start holding Japanese RPGs to higher standards. It's the same writer as the previous article, and it says respecting Japanese video games means not treating them with kids' gloves. So they start off by talking about how they published their piece on Final Fantasy's producer Yoshida and his misguided comments about the next game's overwhelming whiteness. The fans completely lost their minds. Sure, I saw the usual slurs and petty insults, but those weren't the only comments that stuck to my brain. So first of all, they decide to say, poor me. I went online, posted a article specifically for hate clicks, and wow, people didn't like it. When you do that, you're going to face backlash. That is just what happens. While yes, it shouldn't be slurs and awful comments, we don't actually know what people said because of course she didn't actually provide any evidence of said comments. People just could be telling her she's an awful writer and the piece was terrible, and that to her could be harassment. But regardless, she starts it off by saying, of course, people lost their minds and she faced backlash over it. She said, but when I write about wanting Japanese games to be less socially embarrassing, there's almost always a backlash. People accuse me of projecting Western ideas onto an Asian country, but Japanese pop culture has already been engaging with themes of real-life racism. But you are projecting Western ideas onto an Asian country and its creators. As she points out, some Japanese entertainment has covered themes of racism. Does that mean all entertainment does? Absolutely not, and it shouldn't. She also says that she wants Japanese games to be less socially embarrassing, yet she doesn't talk about what that is. I would assume from her past that means, women not looking sexy, games representing minorities, all of these different things. It says, though, and even the developers of the game are extremely sensitive to racial and cultural differences outside of Japan. Yes, that's just what being a human is about. I mean, you are aware of the world and your surroundings, but that doesn't mean that you have to incorporate everything you know and every social issue you're aware of into your content. It says a massive publisher like Square Enix is fully capable of utilizing non-Japanese talent to improve cultural accuracy. It has simply chosen not to dedicate resources to making some of their characters a race other than light European. So I am once again asking weird nerds not to pretend that Square Enix is some indie developer in a guy's basement. It is a multinational corporation that wants to sell copies of the game to a gaming audience that includes black and brown people. Yes, Square Enix is a giant company that wants to sell as many games to as many people as possible, but clearly they have allowed the developers to create what they want, and that should be the end of the discussion. They're competent creators, and I say Square Enix, if they had a giant problem, the game wouldn't be the way that it is. You're free to not cover the game and not give it press, but by putting out pathetic articles like this, you're just making more people want to purchase it because your arguments are very weak here. It says, and I wasn't simply criticizing some newcomer to Japanese game development. YoshiP is the creative producer on one of the most globally famous video game franchises of all time. It's his job to keep up with popular media and cultural trends, and racial diversity is definitely one of them. YoshiP's job is to make video games, and he can make any kind of video game with any content he wants, and that's the end of the story. The backlash to demands for inclusivity is interesting when it comes from JRPG fans. I read a strong tone of defensiveness that JRPGs are just fine as they are, and they don't need to be held to Western standards. As somebody who grew up playing them, I get where the feeling comes from. Just a decade ago, a Canadian indie developer felt emboldened enough to publicly tell a Japanese dev at a conference that Japanese games just sucked and the crowd laughed. I'm sorry, you guys need to get with the times. The developer whom the comment was aimed at had been a programmer for a Final Fantasy game. A month later, Kotaku published a blog that defended JRPGs from oft-repeated claims that the genre was too stale or archaic, and that is what video game journalists should be doing, not attacking them. Video game journalists should be trying to raise up the medium and raise up creations and say that, yeah, creators can do whatever the hell they want, because there are so many games that release now on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. That doesn't mean that all of them need to be cookie cutter and be exactly the same. They need to check off the same exact boxes. But no, of course, sites like Kotaku are dying. They are not getting the clicks that they once did, so now they have to resort to writing articles for hate clicks, for negative press. Of course, though, this wouldn't be a Kotaku article without bringing politics into it. Here's why. White conservatives are terrified that they're losing hold on popular media. They're looking for their own utopia, a place that excludes women and minorities. For some white people, Japan is seen as an eternally unchanging, conformist, and traditional society where marginalized people know their place. Obviously, countries don't work like that, but gamer chuds want Japan to be a safe space from all that SJW nonsense, regardless of what's good for JRPGs as a genre or what actually makes good business sense. Of course, they're using a lot of keywords here, and this article boils down to politics. This writer just wanted to make jabs at white conservatives, and this is what they came up with. Is it wrong that people would want to protect the entertainment they enjoy? No. Hollywood and the people running it have always been very left-leaning. Movies and TV shows have always pushed very political messaging at times, but it used to be more discreet. Now it's so blatantly obvious it's making people sick. The same thing is happening to video games. People are tired of seeing one viewpoint or being told if you don't like this content, you're an Isterophobe, and that's what companies are doing now. We're just simply calling it out, but of course people like this hate us for it and want to label us and say, oh, you're a terrible person because I think this is your political opinion. I think that you're terrible because you use terms like SJW. Yeah, people don't want SJW nonsense in their entertainment, and you're just mad that we're fighting back against it because you are an SJW. This is a prime example as to why we shouldn't like or trust video game journalists. They write hit pieces against anything they can. They bring politics into it. They insult us. I mean, in here, they call us gamer chuds and weird gamer nerds. They don't actually care about the content that they're covering. They just care about making a point and seeming like they, want bigger things for the industry because, of course, they're failed activists. They can't make it with real news sites, so they just had to find somewhere else to go, and the gaming industry is good enough for them. Let's be honest, when has Kotaku put out a good article? It has been a very long time. The only content they put out is content like this, which is absolute trash, but it's no surprise why this person got absolutely roasted over their previous article calling Final Fantasy 16 far too white, and I think that they're probably going to be getting roasted over this new article as well. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.